Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we are going to look at a product from the company Nitecore. This here is the MH11. This is the multitask hybrid series of flashlight. So pretty new to Nitecore, the MH series, kind of striking the balance between an EDC flashlight and a tactical flashlight. Now this here maxing out at 1000 lumen output. This is for me what has for a long time been about the benchmark for an EDC style flashlight. Now in full disclosure, I have taken this out of the box simply to charge it to make sure it was ready for this review. But other than that, we have a few first impressions to gain on this light, look at it together, go through all of this as I unbox it, and then we'll get it out into the field for a little bit of use. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to show you and a whole bunch to talk about. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Nitecore who did provide this for review. Now Nitecore products, there's no denying, this is a brand whose products I've come to greatly enjoy. Everything from headlamps, flashlights, power banks, and even the light that's helping to illuminate this video, Nitecore products. So very high quality, especially their batteries. So in today's video, as we look at this MH11, I do have some questions in my mind about where this is going to fit, my overall impressions, and what this might mean for you. So with that said, let's get into this, get into the unboxing, and go through this in detail. And so again, as we get into this here, the MH11. So again, this is in their multitask hybrid series of lights. And as I mentioned, I have already taken this out of the box, but as you look at the packaging, very typical to Nitecore, nicely done, and overall, very nice presentation. But the nice thing you'll see is as we do get into this, this does come with a pouch. Now, this is, I would say, hit or miss depending on your carry style. For me, in a flashlight of this particular size, I probably won't use it, but it is nice that it comes with it. So depending on the type of user you are, this could be beneficial. Has a little bit of a Velcro enclosure for the belt, so you can loop that right around. Looks like you can actually do a pass-through if you so choose. A little bit of a D-ring on the top if you want to clip this to something. And then the Velcro enclosure to hold the flashlight. Pretty straightforward. The Nitecore warranty, instructions, lanyard, and inside here, as we get this out, you'll see little spare O-rings here, and most importantly, a clip. But as we get into the flashlight here, you will see the Nitecore MH11. Now, again, I have already gotten into this, fully charged this, and I do have it ready to go for the review. And as you look at it here, the first thing you'll see, this does have a rear depression. So on the back here, your rear depression. Not a side switch, but rather a tail cap switch. For me, I do greatly enjoy that. I do like that. On most of my EDC flashlights, I have found that oftentimes with a side switch, I end up accidentally turning the light on in my pocket. A light of 1000 lumens can get very hot, and the last thing you want to do is really, and I'm not going to say necessarily burn yourself, but potentially have a problem, ruin your flashlight, run the battery for too long, and just end up with a little bit of an issue. So having that rear switch on the tail cap, I can say I do greatly enjoy. Now Nitecore always does a very nice job with their fabrication, so you can see everything nicely done. Nice overall machining, a little bit of knurling in some strategic locations. Here you can see the MH11, the branding, and on the side here, one of the most important things to me, the USB charging port. So on this particular light, a USB Type-C charging port, which is a big deal for me. And if you've been following my channel, you probably realize I've been venting about that for a little while now on flashlights, getting away from those micro USBs and into the USB Type-C chargers. For me, I've been kind of standardizing on USB Type-C, so that's a nice deal. Has that little bit of a rubber that you can stuff inside the hole, keep lint and dust out, keep the moisture out. Pretty good overall. And USB Type-C is a little more sturdy from what I've found. A little less prone to breaking, and it's ambidextrous. You can install the cord in multiple directions. Now you can see here, using the included charging cable, there is an indicator light on the underside of the flashlight. So here you'll see blinking in blue. That will blink until fully charged, and then it will stay continuously on. And then this does also provide an indicator while utilizing the flashlight. Now, as I turn the light on, you will see that blue indicator light does not flash. However, if this does get down below 50% power, it will then flash. Here, looking at the front of the bezel, this does really strike a resemblance between an EDC flashlight, but then also kind of a tactical light. You'll notice here that it does have just a little bit of a strike bezel, not overly pronounced, but a little bit. The lens on this, super clear, and as you look down inside the LED, you can see that is just literally crystal clear. Now, they do call this precision digital optics technology with a literal crystal coating on the lens, so that should help in overall clarity. You'll notice the reflector on the inside has 0 orange peel, so this is going to be more of a spot type of light. We should expect to see a bit of a pronounced hot spot, I would expect. So looking down inside, reasonably deep on the overall lens, and then again, nice and polished and a solid reflector. Now for me, this is going to be my front pocket carry. I will not, again, use the sheath, so very unlikely that I'll use the pouch or sheath that it comes with, but rather I will use the clip. And to me, this looks like the intent is that it'll really only go in one position. So installing it here, right on the top, that's going to be the position. Now this is pretty much looking to be a bezel down carry. Does not look to be much in the way of ambidextrous. So pressing the light on, you'll see this is fully charged and ready to go. But one thing I always like to see is, could you potentially unscrew both the head and the tail cap, flip the battery around, and then reverse both the head and the tail cap. And getting into it here, trying to be careful, not cross-threading. It feels like the threads are slightly different. So yes, they are not the same, and I do not suggest doing this to your light. I feel as though if I went to tighten this down, it would cross thread horribly and I would be out of luck. So that to me is just a little bit of a downfall. If they just literally threaded these exactly the same, you would be able to carry this either bezel up or bezel down. Not a big deal, but there are sometimes flashlights where you can get away with that, and I can say when that happens, it's nice. Is it necessary? No, but when you can do it, it's just kind of cool. And so based on the instructions here, they're saying that this is theoretically the low, so the low being 3 lumens. Then we have our medium at 50 lumens, our high at 230 lumens, and the turbo at 1000 lumens. Now, one thing that I can say for me is a little bit of a miss, and it's kind of too bad. You literally can only depress this to turn on and off. There's no momentary press. And I know it's not a deal breaker, but for me, in an EDC flashlight and something like this, honestly, I really love having the momentary press, because sometimes you just need to lean on that a little bit, blip the light real quick, see what you need to see, get off the button, and you're moving on. And it's subtle and it's nitpicky, but why not? And at this point, you literally need to turn the light all the way on, all the way off. Personally, I think Nitecore could have got away with a momentary press on this, and it would have added additional functionality and just a bit of convenience. But again, fully depressing, turning the light on, and that little bit of a bump between the modes. And the problem is, see, sometimes you get a little overzealous, press a little too deep, and you accidentally click the light off. Again, not a big deal, being a little bit nitpicky, but at this point where you have so many different flashlights, so many different options and features, everybody approaches it a little bit different. In my opinion, why not just add that momentary press? But now real quick, just looking at the beam as I press here, just cycling through the modes. Well, here we're going to start. This here is the 3 lumen, not too bright. And we're going to look at this again outside, but just giving you a little bit of an idea there. Half a press. Now there, that is the low mode. So that's that 50 lumen output. The high mode, that's 230 lumens. and then the turbo, that is a 1000 lumen output. And so at this point, let's get the MH11 outside. We'll do a little bit of beam shots in the backyard, and then we'll come in and give you some of my additional thoughts.
Now out in the backyard here, going to get some beam shots, clicking the light on. Here, this is the 3 lumen output. So as you can see here, not going out terribly far, but the nice thing is, as we look here, plenty of light for general navigation. So 3 lumens being real nice in terms of my ability just to get around with ease. Now if I had to find something or make it through my yard, or I was really worried about battery life, the low 3 lumen output's going to be nice. A little half press. Here's the medium mode. So this is 50 lumens. Now you're starting to see that defined hotspot, and that's exactly what I thought. Having sort of more of a reflector without the orange peel, it's going to be a lot more throw, a lot less flood, and that's definitely the case. But at the same time, you can see a nice beam pattern off to the sides, so it's a little bit of a mix between a throwing light and also a good amount of flood. But now extending off into the distance, you'll see the 50 lumens illuminating nicely. This is going to be the perfect general light for overall navigation. Also the ability to see a little bit off into the distance, illuminate, and also save some battery life. Another half press, this is the high mode. So here 230 lumens, really starting to illuminate. You'll see even the neighbor's house there, lighting it up quite a bit. Now this does have a nice throw. In general, this is capable of illuminating good distance, and you can see here, certainly illuminating very far off and pretty much lighting up my entire backyard. And another half press, here the turbo mode. You can really see the defined hotspot, but then getting a good amount of light casting off to the side and giving me good overall throw and flood. Fully illuminating the fence line and the back edge of my property and even up into all the tree lines. So a very good job and illuminating nicely.
And so here real quick, taking a look, this is the low mode. So there you'll see the 3 lumen output, and you can definitely see there is a defined hotspot in the middle, but then again, a nice flood off to the side. A little bit of a half press here. This is the medium mode. So looking at it here, that is the 50 lumen output. Again, having a little more of a defined hotspot there, you can definitely start to see it with a nice flood off to the side. Another half press, this is the high mode. So here, 230 lumens, really starting to brighten up. And then another half press, there is the turbo mode. So nice and bright. Now the camera, I have it set on manual, so it's not adjusting. And that's really letting you see the overall flood and hotspot in this light. This is so bright at this point, it's really kind of doing away with the hot spot. You can see a little bit there as I move this to the side. You have that hot spot defined in the middle and then some flood off to the side. So generally speaking, a nice beam pattern on this MH11. And something else to keep in consideration, if I turn the light off and back on, this does have a memory mode. So half pressing here, going back to that low mode, you'll see as I turn this off and leave it for just a couple of seconds, turn it back on, this does have a memory mode. So whatever settings you leave it on, it will remember it the next time you turn the light on. And so as I suspected, a fairly defined hotspot, especially at the higher lumen outputs. When you get down into the low, 3 lumen and medium, 50, you don't see it quite so much, but when you get a little bit higher, you do get more of a defined hotspot. Now I do have to say I'm very happy with the overall spread and runtime. Now, I did a little bit of research. It got me thinking. My initial impression of this was, well, this is not too much different in overall size than all the 1000 lumen flashlights that we've come to know for years now. And it made me think of one of my first reviews on the ThruNite TN12 2014 edition. Here we are, 7 years later, 18650 battery. Actually, this has a little bit of a smaller overall milliamp hour battery in it than I was using in my TN12. But again, almost the same general form factor. So I was thinking, what is it 7 years later that really sets this apart? And for the most part, my initial impression would have been better runtime, a little more efficiency, a little bit of a better beam pattern. And to be honest, I don't know if I'm really seeing that. So looking real quick, I ran some numbers based on what I could find for data. And to be honest, I don't have any of the paperwork for my TN12 anymore. So I'm kind of relying on my web research. But what I saw was this MH11 at 1000 lumen output runs for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is pretty good. But the TN12 at 1050 lumens was still an hour and a half, which wasn't bad at the time. Here, the high mode at 230 lumens is roughly 4 hours and 15 minutes runtime. Now, the TN12 did have a high mode and a medium mode, so really I had to skip their high mode. So the equivalent output of the high mode on this, on the TN12, was 280 lumens. So again, 230 on the MH11, 280 on the TN12. This runs for 4 hours and 15 minutes. The TN12, 5 hours. So they're about the same. And the other outputs are hard to judge. On this MH11, again, the medium mode being 50 lumens, 20 hours, 45 minutes of runtime. And on the TN12, it has 20 lumens in the medium mode, which is really about half the power, but then it runs about double the time at 74 hours. So again, not really apples and apples and a little hard to judge. And then finally, the low mode, the MH11 being a 3 lumen output at 250 hours of runtime, the TN12 being a true Firefly mode at 0.3 lumens, having 1600 hours of runtime. So again, a not perfect comparison, but my initial impression that this just had way longer runtimes was not true. So although I appreciate this light, I do love Nitecore quality. Everything they make is great. Another thing that I didn't talk about, but it's true, you can tail cap stand this, no problem. But I'm just like, where does this really differentiate itself from what we've seen in the past? Yes, it has USB Type-C. It is in that nice form factor. I do like a light of this size, and even if you could make it smaller, I might still want it to be this big, but the runtime's not really drastically higher than it's ever been. The throw, it's pretty much about the same. The beam pattern and quality, sure. And then it doesn't even have the momentary press. So I do greatly like this light, but I just don't think it's anything different than what we've ever seen before. And so at a real quick glimpse, you may say to yourself, well, that's pretty cool. It has a deep ride pocket clip. And you know, that's something I'd say I like too. Bottom line is it has excellent retention and seems to hold very firm in the pocket. But there is, to my sort of opinion, almost a fatal flaw here, which is, now that I've removed it, there is this area here with almost an extra tab sticking out. And as I go to install this in my pocket, well, every single time, and it's a little hard to demonstrate, it literally gets caught directly on that. So I can't actually deep ride this. And it sits there and grabs, yeah, that's okay. But until I pick this up, slide it in, and sort of shimmy it down into place, there's no way to get it to ride deep in my pocket. Now, to me, that is not functionality, it's almost in conflict. Like, I really don't want this getting hung up on my pants every time I go to put this in. And you'll notice, naturally, I just can't get it to go down until I wiggle it down into place. Then it'll go. But to me, I just don't like that design. So having that little tab in there, that to me is a downfall. It doesn't work very well and really takes away from the user experience. And so all in all, what do I think about the MH11? Well, it goes like this. Nitecore to me is a brand that can and should make premium products. At the end of the day, they definitely make high quality products, and for the most part, their functionality is great. I've come to greatly enjoy and trust them. But the MH11 to me just kind of misses the mark. There's nothing new here, there's nothing special. So if you're gonna make the average EDC pocketable flashlight, just make it perfectly functional. And the things that kind of get in the way take away from that user experience, in my opinion. The button in the back, yeah, it's good, it's solid, but I found that trying to select between the modes, if you're not super careful, you accidentally click it on and off, and the fact that it doesn't have the momentary press kind of leaves it a little bit lacking. And the clip, having that little hook in there, I just can't understand what the purpose and why. If it's going to be deep ride, just let it deep ride and go all the way down into your pocket with ease. That's the usability. That's the ease of getting it in and out of your pocket when the spring clip is good and firm and should hold it in your pocket without any fear of it falling out. And the overall beam quality and spread between the modes, I think, is excellent. I mean, it's a 1000 lumen flashlight. Again, it's nothing spectacular. It just does what it's supposed to do. And in terms of the beam, it does it well. Nice throw, good output, nice spread, reasonable hotspot, nice color temperature. Overall, pretty sweet. With the rechargeable USB Type-C connector, I think that's a plus. The battery life even seems sound. So overall, I want to like this. I just think it could have been perfect for that average EDC flashlight, and the way they built it leaves it a little bit lacking. And so with that said, that's my review of the Nitecore MH11. Again, I'd like to say thank you very much to the people at Nitecore for providing this for review. You know, sometimes bottom line is, even if I get a product for review, I do need to be critical. And with companies like Nitecore, they should set the bar. And in my opinion, I'm going to treat them like that. So I think being a little bit critical, a little bit nitpicky makes a difference. So if the people at Nitecore are looking for a little bit of advice, I'd just say pay attention to that clip. Maybe make it so that it's reversible for the bezel up, bezel down carry. The momentary press there is key, but that clip is really sort of, to me, the icing on the cake. You got to get that right. So anyway, all right, guys. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.